students, and our coach is a netball player from Wales. So without her, we'd be in big trouble.
Marion, a little bit about the history of the game.
Well, netball actually was introduced to England by an American in 1901. He took the game of basketball to England and introduced it just about the same time it was introduced in the States. But in England, the sport that they knew most about was field hockey and soccer. So when it came to putting together rules to play, they incorporated more of those kind of strategy rules, though they still shot through a basket. So in fact, it's the evolution of basketball in England is what netball is today.
And how did the Nelson team reach the zone playoffs? Was there, how many teams were vying for this?
Just in our zone, there was only Fernie. Fernie represented this zone last year, and ourselves. And so we had a playoff last weekend in Fernie and defeated them 28-17 to be the team to represent this area.
And just in a second, we'll get into a clip of netball, but how many, first of all, the age group?
The age group of netball is women, and it's an open age group, so it's 13 to, probably the oldest player at the Winter Games will be about 58 years old.
I watched a little bit in the coverage last year. I noticed that there was, it's not unusual to have a mother and daughter people on a particular team.
No, we have we don't have a mother and daughter on our team, but our age range is 16 to 42 on the team that we play on. And there is some mother and daughter combinations coming to the Winter Games.
Before we get in, to take a look at the netball, Ron, maybe I'll get back to you. What's the age group for bowling?
Bowling this year has gone to 13 to 19. In the past, bowling has had the adult age group, and this year they have gone to the youth.
Are there are all zones represented in the?
Yes,
in the
yeah.
bowling?
There'll be 8 zones for bowling.
Okay, and who's representing Zone 1?
Zone 1 is, unfortunately, is East Kootenay teams this year. Creston, Borderline Bowl in Creston is the girls' team, and Juniper Lanes in Cranbrook is representing the boys' team.
Okay, and how many teams? Where was the zone playoffs, and how many teams were involved?
The playoffs were in Creston, and there was 13 centers involved.
So it was quite a large,
yes,
large tournament.
Yeah.
Marion, let's get back to the netball for a second here. How's the game played? How many people are involved?
There's 7 on a team. The game is played in zones so that players have certain zones which they're allowed to move in. There is only passing involved. There's no dribbling. There is a shooting area so that you shoot in a 16-foot diameter semicircle from the hoop. The hoop is 10 feet tall. It has no backboard on it. The ball is a soccer ball size exactly that it is played with, and that's because when it was introduced, that's the ball that they already made in England was soccer ball, so they just used it. It's a very quick game. You're only allowed possession of the ball for 3 seconds, and then you must get rid of it. And because it must travel from zone to zone, it is a game in which everyone is involved all the time. There's no long passes that go from one end of the gym to the other. So it's a game of anticipation, a great deal of anticipation. Only 2 people shoot, which is quite a bit different from basketball. So you have a goal shooter and a goal attack, and they're the only 2 people on your team that shoot.
What about the length of the game? Is it run in halves like basketball?
The Winter Games, it won't necessarily be because of the time constraints, but it normally is run in 2 1/2-hour halves with a break.
And played, we'll get into the venue later on, but it's usually played on a basketball-sized court?
100 feet by 50 feet, and in many of the countries like Australia and New Zealand and the South Pacific Islands, it is an outdoor game. It's not an indoor game.
And it's basically new in North America then?
It's been around North America for quite a while, brought mainly by people who've come over from England. There are, in BC, there is approximately 25 to 30 teams operating. There's a big league down the Lower Mainland, and there is a national championship, and there is, Canadians are second right now in the Worlds at the junior level, and they finished 6th at the Worlds in the senior level.
Marion's brought a clip along of a netball game. Let's take a look at that clip right now and give you a better idea on just how this game's played. that's the first netball game I've ever seen. Debbie, what about the venue? It's, I understand the netball people are kind of excited with the venue here in Nelson. Why is that?
Definitely. This, the netball people are really excited because this is the first time that they've actually had a full-sized court to play their game on. And so the people from the Lower Mainland are going to be really impressed with the kind of facilities that Nelson's been able to offer.
Mm-hmm. Does the court or the venue need any modifications for the netball? I mean, extra lines and things like that probably have to be painted, I suppose.
We are going to be putting down some lines, and of course we need the circle for the attack area. And this time we're not sure as to whether they're going to be painted or we will be using special marking tape.
Where do the nets come from? Who supplies the hoops and the standards? And
special delivery from the BC Netball Association.
Okay.
Minor crisis. They were blue and they faded into LVR's background, and so we've had to have them painted,
okay,
so that we'd be able to see them. You know, the holes quite small.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, watching that, I noticed that, as I was mentioning, I have a tough enough time getting a basketball through a much bigger hoop. Some of the other sports are going to a disabled division. Has netball done that yet, or is there any plans in the future? Do you know? Or
Gosh, I'm not aware that there are. We're sharing our venue with the wheelchair athletes.
I understand that. Yeah, it would seem to me it would be a sort of a natural evolution, you know, particularly because basketball is played that way. Ron, what about the bowling venue at the Savoy Lanes? I know you said it's a 2.5-year, 3-year-old building. Was there any modifications that had to be made to it for the
we
the
put
bowling?
in some soundproofing. A local company in the area did that for us. That was the only thing. We'll be putting bleachers in too.
Right. Yeah. How's the bowling going to be held? I mean, what kind of a tournament format is
well,
it?
there's a boys division, a girls division, and the boys team and the girls team in each zone make up a mixed team. So we have a mixed team event too, and it'll then become a three event sport for the bowling.
Okay, and just a round robin. You play every other.
You play each zone once, yes.
Okay, so the gold, silver, and bronze medals are team medals, not necessarily individuals. If somebody, example, bowls a high triple, that just goes to a team score rather than an individual score.
That's correct. It's all team. Yes.
Okay, and obviously, do you have the schedule? How is it going? Be going all day long? How far into the evening will it be going? Do you know at this time?
We'll be starting on Friday afternoon at 3:30, and Friday's a short day. We'll only be playing till about 8 o'clock at night on Friday, and then Saturday we'll be starting at 7:30 in the morning, and that'll go to about 7:30 in the evening. And Sunday we're going to start at 7:30 in the morning, and we'll have our closing ceremonies at noon.
Okay. Debbie, what about the tournament format for netball? How's that worked?
We'll be using a round-robin format to run the tournament. We're off to an early start on Friday morning. The first game will take place at 7 o'clock in the morning. We'll be playing all morning and into the early afternoon, finishing up at 2:15. On Saturday, we'll be starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'll be playing into the later part of the evening, finishing it at 10:30, with the gold-silver playoffs happening on Sunday at 10:15 a.m.
And Marion said there might be a little bit of modification on the time limit. Do you have they made the decision how long the games are going to be?
About an hour.
Okay. And I know that the venue at L.B. Rogers can take about 400 to 500 people, so there's lots of room for spectators. And
we understand that netball is a very exciting game, and we sure encourage people in Nelson to come out and take a look and see how it's done.
And the thing that we've mentioned in the shows, it's also free, which is nice. Ron, you mentioned they're putting bleachers also in the Savoy Lanes for and that's also free.
Yes.
Marion, what about some of the committee involvement for instance, how long ago did the committee was formed? How long ago? When did you start work? And
last May we had our first meeting, and we did quite a bit before the summer holidays, and then during the summer there was a little bit of a break. And then since then we've been going and especially, you know, signing up volunteers and making sure that, you know, everything is in place and that we have the equipment and we have everything that we need, and liaisoning with the Winter Games office and also with the BC Netball Association. At the same time, we've run clinics up here. We're doing a clinic over in Creston. We're really trying to promote the game of netball in the Kootenays. I was speaking last night to the provincial advisor, who's really excited about what this committee has done for netball in the Kootenays, that we now know of possibly 2 other towns that will start up teams, and we may end up with a netball league here, which comes directly from the fact that the Winter Games has netball as one of its sports. So it's very exciting at the provincial level to have that.
We'll get back in a minute on maybe some of the junior development, but Ron, how about your committee? How many people are on it, and when did you people start?
Well, we've had about 25 people on our committee altogether. That'll include scorekeepers which is the main bulk of our committee, is actually the scorekeeping. We started, actually it's an ongoing thing. Once the Winter Games are finished, we're right into the next year's schedule and everything. We go over our schedule right away from the previous year to see if there's any changes that we should make or any changes in the format. But the format's been basically the same for about 10, 11 years.
Are the teams seeded in these tournaments, or?
No, they're not seeded. They bowl off for it. Each house, each bowling center in the province has a trial period, like 6-game or 8-game trials, and then you make the team, and then you represent the city in your zone playoff.
Okay, and the teams are, again, 5-member teams?
5-member teams.
I've done a little bit of bowling myself. I don't know that much about the sport either. The interesting thing about this program is I get to learn a lot about sports that I really don't know much about. Ron, bowling at a Winter Games level, is there referees? Is there a chief referee to take care of? I mean, do you have arguments in bowling, or?
No, you shouldn't.
Okay.
We have what we call a judge of play.
Okay, and so your officials would basically be the scorekeepers, which is the important thing in the game.
And our statisticians, and judges of play, and also our communication people.
Right. Debbie, where do they get referees for netball?
Special flight coming in from Vancouver. 6 officials, referees will be arriving. Our volunteers will be involved in scorekeeping and the statistics that we'll be keeping in throughout the tournament.
Okay. And Marion, you said that there was, you were teaching people to not only play but also officiate and scorekeep?
We have people that will be helping with the scorekeeping. The officiating will be done by the umpires from Vancouver. But at the playing level, one of the things that's very exciting for the juniors in particular is that most of BC's junior team last year graduated to the senior ranks. So for the 20 and under members of our team, they have a very good chance of going on from here to the BC Championships for high schools. And we have a couple of players that I think have the potential to be BC team netball players and go, you know, much beyond the Winter Games. So at the junior level, that's a very exciting development for them.
Yeah. The thing that was interesting that you said a little while ago was that Canada is actually ranked internationally in this game, and very few of us have heard it. And I don't believe that netball is played at the Canadian Winter Games or Summer Games. I think it's basically a provincial sport.
No, it isn't. They have a national tournament once a year. It was down east last year. An interesting thing about the national tournament is BC is the only team with white players on it.
All the rest are?
All the rest are Jamaican, Trinidadian from the South Pacific Islands that play out of Toronto, Edmonton, Montreal.
And is it at the national level? Is it played outside also, do you know, or is it?
No, it's played indoors at the national level. In Canada.
Ron, what about the situation of bowling in the Nelson area? What's our junior program? Do we have a junior program? How successful is it? How many kids are involved?
Right, we have about 100 registered youth bowlers. We call it the YBC program of Canada, Youth Bowling Council of Canada. And they also have playoffs, and they're doing that now in January. They're competing to make the teams. They do that in different levels, in the bantam, junior and senior level. And they go on to a zone, a provincial, and there's Canadian championships. And there has been in bowling and youth bowling since about 1964.
Do you have any figures offhand how many kids are involved in Nelson, particularly in the junior bowling leagues?
There's around 100.
And the cost is relatively minimal, is it? Or
Yes, it is. We charge a $12 registration fee at the beginning of the year, and then they pay for their bowling each week as they come.
okay. And I guess we the next question, it's 5-pin bowling. Maybe we didn't
That's
make
right.
that clear, but the clip at the beginning of the program told us that. Was there a reason, for example, that that 5-pin was picked as a winter games rather than 10-pin, or are they two entirely different sports? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Well, really they are. 10 pins is probably, if you're looking at popularity in Canada, 10 pins has maybe got about 10 to 20% of the market. 5 pins is much more popular in Canada. And if you took just 10 pins, what you would have in the Winter Games is you'd only have the larger centers like Kelowna, Vancouver, and Victoria, and Prince George, and places like that. There's a lot of cities in BC that don't have 10-pin lanes at all.
Mm-hmm. Marion, what about the proposed junior programs or youth programs in Nelson and the area?
Well, you know that once the Winter Games leaves, they leave behind the things that they have put into the town. And one of the things that we will have, of course, are the standards. They are called goals, by the way. They're not hoops. And to do with soccer almost. They're soccer and field hockey goals. And those hopefully will become the possession within the school district and go to different schools, and we'll set up some junior clinics and hopefully develop a program, because there is a BC High School tournament every May in which teams are invited down to try out for the BC High School Championships. And we'd really like to see it, get it started and have a team here to go to all the Winter Games, or at least to try out for all the Winter Games.
The interesting thing is that last week we had on the netball, or the racquetball people, and the ping pong, and I'm involved in BC School Sports, which is the umbrella body for high school athletics. And ping pong is a high school, BC School Sports sponsored. Racquetball isn't yet, and netball, but if it's being played at the school level, I'm sure it will be in a few years. And I guess, Debbie, that's what the ultimate thing would be, is to get it into the schools and make it popular that way.
We're really encouraging the phys ed teachers in the local schools to learn about netball and encourage kids to come out and learn about netball. So yes, we're hoping it's another opportunity for kids to get involved.
Right. Marion, what about get back for a second with the referees, fouls? Do you sit down or you take a shot, or?
You get, if it's an incidental type of foul, you get free passes, you get penalty shots if it happens within the circle. You get passes off the end. If they should feel for some reason that you were going out after someone and they asked you to leave the game, then you would not return the game to the game, and no one would come into your place. So you would then be playing that player short.
Okay.
It's a ladylike form of basketball, but very aggressive. I think that's the thing that people have to understand. It's an extremely aggressive game, because you have to anticipate, you have to be very fast, aggressive without touching.
Okay. Ron, you've got another, 6 weeks till tournament time to BC. Where are your people staying? You're not responsible for any of that, where the bowling people are staying, or?
No, the competitors will be staying in the schools, I imagine, or wherever the Winter Games people are providing access, because of the age level.
Okay.
13 to 19. Yeah.
Okay, but that's not, you're just the tournament organizer.
No, I'm not responsible for that.
That's so nice. Debbie, what about you? You're not responsible for the accommodations, or?
We're not, but at LVR we're really fortunate, because our competitors will in fact be housed at LVR, and so they'll be very close to the action. They will be bused to the Canadian International College for those meals, that they won't actually be involved in the play.
Okay. We're just about out of time. I'd like to thank you, Ron, and Debbie, and Marion, for being on the program. I know the next 6 weeks are going to be very, very busy for you, and much luck.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's as much time as we have for the program this evening. We'd just like to remind you that if you haven't volunteered for the BC Games here in Nelson, please do so. Phone the BC Winter Games office, and they'd be certainly glad to take your name and what you'd like to do. There's lots of jobs open yet, and we think you'd enjoy it. Until next week, my name's Art Maxwell. Good night.